Hey there, Tim here. We are going to do a little crash course on custom forms and moving them around and some of the components. I'm going to record this so you can pause and do things like that. So anyway, the attributes that I did for the demo were on the lots form. And what I did was over here I created a separate tab called Certificate of Analysis Results, or COA Results. And what I'm going to do is show you pieces of that, and then also I'm going to install those in your environment. So if we look at this, how do we do this? We go into design mode here, which is our little paint, or Control E as in edit, and then we're going to get asked the scope here, and the scope is which layer that form is on. So I'm going to actually cancel out of here and go here right now and say about this form. We basically have the site default here, and the way the hierarchy is you've got the vendor default, that's the site line stuff. Nobody touches that. You can create a site default that's applicable to all users, everyone who gets in there, or what you can do is create a group default, so for a certain group or a specific user. In this case, we're going to do the site default here. So actually, before you even go in anywhere, you can go here to form definition and set your what's called your developer impersonation, which just asks you what it is. We're going to work at the site level. It tells me I might want to get rid of what's in my cache, my cache memory. I can do that by going here and unloading that. So Control U, or this menu option here, definition, unload all form object. It's just getting it out of memory. So next time I open this, it'll be reading from the database and not from memory. Anyway, back here, let's go into the editing mode. Okay, I'm going to go into edit mode, and I want to just talk a little bit about here. What I did here, if you look here, I've got a notebook tab. I go up there, and that will come up with a kind of an edit box here. And if you notice all the tabs, I get general, COA results, attribute, lot trace, they are here. There's my general COA results. Tab 3 is my attributes, lot trace. So if I wanted to add a tab here, I could actually just go and say add a notebook tab here, and it would go ahead and add a new one here. I can label it blah blah blah. Okay, and then from there, let's go back here. I can, if I go ahead and work on this, I can pause the thing for a second. Where is that? If I go here, now if I do that, I should have. So I can actually go to one of my tabs here, and now I've got my data elements that I can change or add or something like that. Now if I wanted to add something here, I could go over here and pick from my objects and say I want to add an edit box. There's an edit box. I can go over here and add that. What it's going to do is bring that over here and allow me to tie it to data, do things like that, change the name of it, do things like that. But what I'm going to show you here is what I'm going to delete that. What's already here that I put on here. If we look over here, every one of these has an attribute, and those attributes are, say what it's called. So I've got an edit box here, and I've got a label next to it. The label is a static object. But back here, if I look here and go to data source, okay, it is a binding. It goes to a property, which is just a data field, and the property is attached to this collection of lots. So that's the file, the database table, if you will, and you will have all of the fields that are associated with that table there, and you just basically associate it. Now, these particular fields did not exist here before, so we created those with user-defined fields or user-extended tables, UETs, I'll talk about. But anyway, that's kind of where these things are. So let's talk a little bit about these guys and how we get them in there. But suffice to say, if you wanted to add some things, first you've got to have that the field that you add to it. And we're going to go out of here and talk about our user-defined fields. If we go in, look, here are the user-defined fields that I created. And when I create a new one, I can say what type of field it is, data property, how big it is. So up here it is just a regular character field. It's 8 characters long. If I had a, say, a decimal field or something, I wanted to put that in there, it's 8 long with 2 decimal places, if you will. And I think there's some campus stuff on this a little bit more. But anyway, so those are the fields. But in order to have the fields, you've got to do a little something first. There's a little bit of a structure here because those fields are just going to float out in space unless you actually tie them to an object or a table. In this particular case, the lots table we're using this on. So first thing we need to do is have classes. A UET class is basically just kind of a container for some of this other stuff. I set it up. It is US Magnesium UET class, just a generic class. Then what you've got to do is you've got to tie classes to tables. In this particular case, I tied this class to the lot master table. And once that is done, you can go out there and create your user UET fields. And then what you've got to do is you've actually got to tie those fields to a class. So basically, this is the way that you're getting these kind of free-floating user extended tables that line up to a particular table, which is the lot master. So over here on my class field relationships, basically I'm just tying this field to this class. If for instance I was going to have this on the lot master and maybe somewhere else on the, I don't know, lot location or something else, I could actually add another class to the different table, and that would actually make those user extended tables here, these data elements, that would make them appear on the other table that I linked that to. So anyway, this kind of fire hose stuff, but I just want to give you a little bit of background on what's in here, because what we're going to do is we are going to take what I have done here, and we are going to go ahead and export some of this stuff. So the first thing I'm going to do is export my user extended tables, because we're going to basically paste and import them to you. So this is going to be classes And let's go back to my here. We're done with that. I can close it. Class field relationships is later. So class table relationships would be the next one that I do. Okay. Usernames, forget about this. Let's get rid of it. And I'm going to go here, copy this guy, insert a worksheet here. This is going to be class table. Okay, and then we go back to our in-force session. We're done with this. Next thing we want to do is get those UETs out of here. Or we're actually not getting them out, but we're just exporting them so that we can import them into your application. Copy that, go here, insert a worksheet, paste that, call that UET user fields. Okay, and let's go back here. We are done with you. We're going to go here to our class field relationships and export those. Again, I'm showing you this just to show you how I'm moving it from one environment to the other. You may do this when you're like if you're in development, you want to move this to live. So here, let's go to our insert a worksheet, class field, and paste that there. And go back here. We can come here, and we're done with that now. Okay, so that is done. So I've got that. What we're going to do next is we're going to upload those into your environment, and then we're going to be able to build the form, because if we try to import this form first without those data elements in there, it's not going to like it very much. So I'll be back in a sec. We are going to go into your training environment as SA. Some of the things that we're doing, some of that design ideas, you don't need to be SA, but some of the things you do. So for now, we're just going to be SA to do this. We will log in here, and let's get back to, I don't need you anymore. I don't need you. You I do want here. So these are my tables that I have, and I'm going to start to load them. Here, first thing I'm going to do, let's do the UET user fields, because those are standalone. So if I go here, user fields, I'm basically going to come here, copy those, go back here, go out of filter mode, and then go ahead and paste rows append, which should update those. Why didn't that happen? Hold on. Interesting. I'm going to pause for a second and figure this. Okay, for some reason this didn't work because there was not yet a record. So when I created a placeholder record, it allowed me to paste rows append very easily. So I'm going to go save this, and then using my save key, and then this guy, obviously we are going to get rid of him, delete, and then save that. So now we've got our user fields done. Let's go to our next victim here, which would be our classes. Okay. Whoops. Let's go there. Copy that guy. Go back to our app. Go to UET classes. Out of filter mode, edit, paste, rows, append, save that. Okay, I've got those saved. We're going to go here to our class table. That would be the next one here. UET class table, or table class actually. Out of filter mode, we are copied. And paste, rows, append. There we go. We're going to save that record. And the last one we do is our class field relationship. Save that. Class field relationships. And out of filter and place, edit, paste, rows, append. Ka-ching, ka-ching. And save that record. We're done, right? Not so fast. The last thing we do when we create any UETs ever, or do anything with them, is we've actually got to go out and run this thing that says, I'm going to impact the schema. So I've got all those things I set up. Now I actually want to go write them to the database. It probably sounds a little more scary than it is, but so, you know, if I made a mistake, I could undo that, get rid of it, and impact schema again. So anyway, I used just the defaults here. Go here, hit process. It should tell me that 2 tables, I believe, are going to be updated. And that is because the behind the scenes, the lot master has kind of 2. It's kind of a global table as well. So anyway, that's the result we were looking for. So now it'll allow me to, it says I got to restart ERP. That's that whole cache thing, which is fine. So let's go here, sign out again, and go back to this, put our password in, and I'm back in there. So now if I wanted to go into my lots form, but before I do that, remember what I want to do is I want to change my impersonation to the site level, because the change I'm going to make is for the entire site. Now I'm going to open up the lots form. And when that opens, we're going to see our little tab that I did. It's not there because we haven't put it in your application yet, but I want to come in here and just make sure that the data elements we put in here are indeed there. So here's my form collections. This is the actual the data, or the table, the IDO that's here. So this is all the stuff that has to do with lots, and we look at here to my derived fields. There are my user-defined tables, and notice I created them with a UF, or UF underscore blah blah blah, and it prepends the table alias here. So if it was the item master, would be ITM UF whatever, but they are here. So our impact schema worked. Next thing we're going to do is actually import the form that we did here. So stand by. Okay, so we're back in our test environment here. If we go to our form sync tool, so that is open form sync. That's here, and this is one thing you do need to be in as SA to use. So if I go here and I looked at, let me see my filters, I go up here, I find my lot table. So I went in here, and this is just exporting this thing, and I don't think you need it for the purpose of getting to work on your form. But I took this and I am taking all the changes I made and exporting those to a file so I can import them in your thing. So I did that. I created a script or an export there. So now what I want to do, I've got that table. That's where I put it. I'm going to go back to your application and see if I can find yours. There we are. If I go to Form Sync here, and again, some things that you probably don't need to know at this point in terms of Form Sync and how it works. So I go to my utilities and I go to import. I'm going to go to my file name, and that was, I believe, right over here. So that's my working directory. Go here, open this up, and ooh, XML, very interesting. And hit pause for a second. Okay, I see what I did. So when I did the export, I scripted it to an SQL statement versus I should have exported it because I forgot you do not have access to the SQL Server. So it is an XML document that we are looking for here. So if I go back to our thing, I did export that. star.xml. If I look there, there's my lots XML. I'm going to take that, open that file, and I am going to import it. Import just one thing, blah, blah, blah. Import complete. So now what I'm going to do here is there's my my old lot form. If I go here and close that out, and again, one thing I'm going to do is unload my cache, which is either through this menu option, or I always just remember whenever I make a change, I did Control U. So Control U, you'll see that little spinner happen for a second. My forms are dumped. I will go here and open my lots form, and ooh, that is not good. I'm going to pause for a second. Okay, I realized what I did. I exported that thing with another product installed, the DocTrack stuff, which isn't in your schema, so it blew up. So now what we're going to do is open this up, and I think we're going to see an error when we do. Again, here. Okay, I realized what that error was. The version of the application I did that demo in was one step off from the version you are on. It's actually, I have the more advanced or the latest one, the bleeding edge one, so it's not really backward compatible to do that form thing. So what I did was I went ahead and I created that form as a user level here. Okay, right now as you log in, it's the site default, or actually I sent it to the site default. If you choose user SA and dump your cache using Control U, see the little thing, we're going to open up our most recent, which is lots. We should get this error message because we do, but this form here is now about this form, it's user SA, right? So if I actually close this, set my impersonation to, set my impersonation to site level, dump my cache with Control U, see my little spinny, Up here and fire that up again. I will not get the error message. I also do not have the changes here. So what we can do, I left them in there. There's an error, right? But I left that in there so that you could actually see how those things are set up. So you actually, if you log in a session just as SA, let's do this. I'm going to log in as SA with my special weird SA password. That's not the one. Let's go here. That's the one. And then if I open a second session, which I can do here, and this will come over on my other screen. I have to drag it over here. So this could be a user like me, for instance, or you. So now I actually maybe I didn't set myself up in that way. Dang it. Oh. Okay, I set myself up with a user here in your environment. Logged in. If I go here to my lots form, there I'm going to get the, actually, what am I doing? It's in the wrong environment. Forget you saw that. So this is my session that I actually want to open the lots form on. And that's going to open cleanly. Okay, if I go to back to my SA session here and open my lots form, it's going to give me that error, but it is going to bring up this changed form. So you can actually use this and come in here and design your form here and make your changes to it. I'll do something quickly. So I'm actually going to do this in my, this is a version vendor default, but if I go to edit this, actually, you know what? I will edit this in vendor default to get you started. Let me go to definition. I'm going to go here and change myself to site. Did I say vendor default? Sorry, site default. Squirrely lots. And I'm here. Double check my form. It is the vendor default. But now when I actually make a change to this, it is going to be a site default. So if I go in and edit this, because I set myself to site impersonation, and I make a change to that, it will save it as my site impersonation. So first thing I'm going to do is come down here to my notebook tab, right? And let's add a notebook here. And we're going to call this C of A tab. And we're going to do this. We're going to call this Cert. Certs. It's a nice little thing there. And I'm going to say OK. And now there is my Certs tab. If I click on that, I'm going to get an empty slate here. And the way I can add some components here is I go to click on Form down here, go up here to Collections. That is my data. And if I do that, remember I had checked to make sure that my UETs were in there, and there they are. and I can start to just take these here and drag them. Let's do this again. Drag, drag, drag. Not sure why that is not letting me do that. Hold on a second. Okay, I got that to get in there. Let's try another one here. If I come down here, it's not letting me do it, but if I come up over here, it lets me put that up there. See, no, yes. If I do this, it gives me an error about, unloading my cache. That's fine. So those are my two, and in fact, there are two, if you notice. These things up here have labels, so when you actually use this method of drag and drop, it will create the label field for you as well. So I'm going to hold down the control key and grab both of those guys, bring them down onto this into this tab, and it says press Alt to place inside the COA tab. So if I press the Alt key, it lands them there. And now what I have is I have the ability to put a caption here. So what is this? This is my CA result. So I'm going to call it CA. That'll be my caption. And down here, this is my AL. So I'm going to do this as AL as my caption on this guy. And so I'm starting to add these things, and they're all here that I can just drag and drop over here. I'm not sure why it didn't let me do it right on the canvas here. Sometimes it's a little quirky. But I want to go back to one other thing that was in here real quick. So if you look, some of these little guys have some values in here, and some do not, right? Freeform, whatever. Here I created these lists in a certain way, so I'm just going to do one here, which is a CU, right? So if we go and we find CU, and I'm going to go here and bring those up here, blah, blah, hit escape to get through those error messages. I'm going to come down here. I got them both done. Drag here, and it says, hit my tab, I hit tab, there it is. I'm sorry, Alt, not tab, Alt. This is my CU. And there's my static. Now, again, back here, I've got this cool little drop-down thing. How do I do that? Well, this is an edit box by default when I drag something over here, but remember we had a bunch of things over here. I can have different object types here, and the one thing I want to do is a combo box here. So if I click on this and come up here, this is the type. I can choose a combo box, right? And I know, blah blah blah. I don't know how to disable those annoying messages. So that now it's a combo box, right? So I'm going to by the way, I would recommend temporarily just always save the work you've done. Now that I save it, I come up here and I do this about this form. Never mind that. So now I've got this thing. I saved it. I'm going to unload my cache with Control U, and I'm going to open this form again. My lots form, or Control O, and I'm doing that because I want to see what it looks like, but I don't want to get out of design mode. If for some reason I did something that was like terrible, and I blew up the form, I get to, sometimes if you did that, it wouldn't let you back in design mode, or wouldn't let you open the form. This way I keep it open so I can make the changes. So anyway, I have now my new form here. If I go up here and do help about this form, now it is my site default, because that's what I've been doing. If I go here, I've got my certs, and now I've got my drop down, but I don't have anything in that drop down. So what we'll do is I'm going to close this form, go back to this drop down. And well, how do I do that? If you look at the data source here, it's bound to that object. Just because I use that and dragged it over, it's a quick way to do it. But here is my something called list source, and I can go here, and if I wanted to, I could point that to another table or something like that. But this, I know exactly what I want, so I'm going to make it an inline list here, and I am going to make these entries. Hold on, let me go back here. What were they? So for CU was under 10, 10, or over 10, right? So I'm just going to go back here, say the entries will be less than 10, 10, and greater than 10. Let's get rid of that space because I don't think I just need it. And I save that. Do OK. And OK. And I'm going to, again, save my form. Dump my cache. Or Control U, either way. I'm going to open this. By the way, I don't like the mouse too much, so if you do like Alt keys, Alt F, and then see that next to the lot here is number 1, just press the letter 1. So Alt F1 will open my forms. I hate the mouse. So this should open this up and allow you to start to see the changes here. There are my inline things. So now I'm starting to build my form here. Got my different tabs, all that sort of stuff. And then lastly, okay, the data's in there. How do I actually get it out? If I go to data views here, this is one of the reporting tools that we have. Go to data view setup, and you have, I don't know, 100 some odd data views that come with the application, kind of pre-built things. What, 270 of them? Check that out. So you've got that. The thing I can do is create a data view called USM lot cert, and I just want the caption to be the same. My IDO collection, where's that? Well, actually, if we go back to my design mode to find out where that is, you go to that form, go to collections. That is going to be your collection here, this SL lots. So if you ever wanted to find out where do I find this data, you go to the form, you find the collection, and even at the field, it's SL lots, manufacturing ID, or whatever it is. So that's one way to go find it. So I've got SL lots. If we go back to my data view setup, and my IDO is going to be SL lots, and if I hit F2 here, it brings it all. You have a few things here. Remember when we impacted the schema, it did 2 tables instead of 1. Well, it does lots and lots all. All's for kind of some multi-site replication you don't need to worry about. Just go in here and SL lots. I'm going to save that. I just picked my source, and now what I'll do is go set this up and say, through my IDO setup, which is basically saying, okay, for my SL lots, I can do a bunch of stuff with filter, but right now what I want to do is just go find the lot number. Item might be helpful, right? There's my lot number, and then here are my UETs that I put here. So that is one thing. When you add these user extended tables, they automatically show up for consumption in the reporting and such. So I will do that. Just going to save it. I'm going to save this. And if I ran this, it would basically give me nothing because I don't have any data in there. But I think it will give you nothing with the columns that you're supposed to see. Okay, there it is. So there's my lots and my fields and things like that. So that is one way you can do it. There's a lot more to data views, but just in terms of what I did was I created my UETs. I did all my stuff to impact the schema, the classes, all that stuff, which are set up in here now, and you can just add more fields. Then I go into my design mode. I can go here and start to take my these ones that start with DER, just ignore those. They are not the ones you're looking for. So I can just take these things and drag them over here and place them, label them, add my drop downs, things like that if I'd like. So back to it. If you wanted to just kind of see what I did on the other thing, you go back as logged in as SA with this form that gives you the error message, and you can there's not much new there that I haven't explained already, but so that is kind of the overview, and I think there are some resources out there in Campus. There's actually another place to look that is a very good resource for some of this development work. It is called mongoose.infor.com, and there are a ton of tutorials out here in terms of how to do things. Mongoose, I think you're in Mongoose, the latest version of Mongoose, whatever that is. But there are tutorial videos and things like that in terms of how to do things, assets, code snippets. I haven't been in here in a while, but it's like the keys to the kingdom of how to do stuff is in here. And this would be a good resource as well. So hope this is helpful. Thanks.